Do I look rad?
Whatever, man. Are you tripping? You look totally bogus.
Bite me! Hi, I'm Justine.
And I'm Daryl.
And we're the Breakaway Bravehearts. In this video, we give you a review of the Maidstone Museum. If you're new to our channel, our videos take a social tourism perspective, reviewing sites in terms of social good, economic benefit, accessibility, relationships between locals and tourists, and of course, environmental impact. So make sure you subscribe now and click the notifications bell so we can help you make travel choices that fit your values. Today we're in Maidstone, in the largest town in Kent, England. The River Medway runs through the centre of the town, and historically, the river carried much of the town's trade as the centre of the agricultural county of Kent, which is also known as the Garden of England. There is evidence of settlement in Maidstone, dating back before the Stone Age, and they like to highlight a claim to fame of sparking palaeontology, because in 1822 Gideon Mantle used fossils found in Maidstone to reconstruct the skeleton of an iguanodon.
But today we are at Maidstone Museum to enjoy the other end of history.
The totally bodacious exhibit, I Grew Up 80's.
From the epic era of the neon and fingerless gloves.
The Maidstone Museum is a beautiful, huge Elizabethan manor house, housing an incredibly varied collection. You've got ancient Egyptian artefacts, Japanese culture, natural history, contemporary art, local history, and much more. And it's just one of 3 museums that Maidstone has to offer. And along with their great fixed collections, they also have regular changing guest exhibits. So there's always something for everyone.
And sometimes you just come up with these beautiful gems. I Grew Up 80's took us straight back to our childhood.
The exhibit, created by Matt Fox, is packed with everything from iconic toys, games, fashion, music, and technology that defined the decade.
That's the one I used to have red. I used to have a red one of those. I used to think the graphic equalizer was amazing.
The detail in this exhibit is incredible. They even had original packaging that really took you back.
That was what became Snickers. Opal fruits, I think they call them Starburst.
As soon as you see the packets, you remember the jingles from the advert.
Oh, I was singing them out loud. Trio, trio, I want a trio and I want one now. Remember these? They've got everything from Transformers, My Little Pony, and Cabbage Patch Kids. Can you remember them? Toys were such a big part of childhood for so many of us. As we walked through, we reminisced about friends we played with and the imagination these toys sparked. Comment below if you have any of these.
And who can forget the fashion of the 80s? Neon colours, shoulder pads, leg warmers, it's all here. And it's all pretty cringe-worthy. There's even a small rack of clothes if you really feel the need to relive bygone fashion. To be fair, some of this stuff might have been better left in the past. But I do miss colour. Everything just seems so much more fun and fluorescent.
I have to say, it's got to be as cool as I look now. That's got to be the statement. It would be hard for younger generations to believe it now, but in the 80's, it was the age of the technological revolution. It's fascinating to see the evolution of the tech that we take for granted today. Everything was so much bigger. The arms, their muscles, you needed to have them to carry these things. It was amazing. And so many buttons. It was about more rather than less.
And most of the tech I remember was related to music. The 80's pretty much had a continuous soundtrack. There was the birth of MTV, where music videos became what you watched, what you talked about, and what you posed to in front of the bedroom mirror. I remember the times I would stand by my boombox with my finger poised over the record button, just waiting for the radio to play the latest Duran Duran song so I could record it.
Wow, I remember those days.
I also remember my monthly magazine subscription. But to be fair, I don't think I ever actually read any of the articles. I was just waiting for the pin-ups. My whole bedroom wall was, I shudder with embarrassment now, Johnny Depp from his 21 Jump Street days.
So the 80's were a golden era of movies and television as well.
Remember the 3 rules?
Films like E.T., Back to the Future, Ghostbusters, and The Breakfast Club. These films not only entertained us, but also shaped our views and provided memorable quotes and scenes that are still a reference today. Television was equally influential with shows like The A-Team, Knight Rider, Miami Vice, Saturday morning cartoons like He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. By the power of Grayskull, I have the power!
So this exhibit was definitely a lot of fun for us. And it's the only museum exhibit I've ever been to where everyone just stopped and started talking to each other, reminiscing about it.
Were you allowed to watch Grange Hill as a kid?
Yes.
You were? You were allowed to watch it, were you?
Or singing and dancing to the videos. It was just amazing, wasn't it?
So how does it rate on our social good stuff? Firstly, what did we learn?
Well, there's a lot of info on the walls with some interesting facts. We were from the 80s and we did know a few of them, but we still got to learn some new stuff too. But they were good reminders that made you reflect on changes in society today.
I'd have to say though, I thought it was quite a limited perspective on an entire decade. The exhibit made the 80s look entirely about colour and fun, and it made it look kind of frivolous too.
Kind of like what we're doing right now.
To be fair, in our age group it probably was. But the fact is, the 80s was a time of incredible political and social change. The Cold War dominated global politics, with the threat of nuclear war between Russia and the US feeling very real. I remember posting nuclear-free New Zealand stickers on my classroom windows.
There was also the impact of free market principles. Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher on every television screen talking about deregulation, privatization and tax cuts.
And I learnt my first ever Russian words, perestroika and glasnost.
As a teen, it was a fascinating time to learn about world politics. There was a global debt crisis, the emerging of the HIV/AIDS crisis, and the Chernobyl disaster, which brought the environmental crisis to the forefront.
So it's interesting to see a decade of crisis portrayed as a decade of fun. I would say there's a lot of untold stories behind this exhibition. But perhaps it's too soon in history for a museum to really think about the full picture.
However, the mission of Maidstone Museum is to inspire, educate and engage the public, and it did just that. We try to avoid filming in general public, so you can't see that it actually was a busy little place. Not overcrowded, just a comfortable bustle of people of all ages and languages, including school groups.
Volunteering is actually a significant part of the museum's work. Volunteers play a crucial role in supporting the daily activities and special events. However, that's mostly targeted to locals, and I don't think it would be suited for transient travellers.
So on the treasury front, the museum operates as a charitable trust, which means it relies heavily on donations and grants to keep up the operations and build new exhibits. And it gets its financial support from Maidstone Borough Council, as well as from individual donors and corporate sponsors.
A bit of research on the web showed us that the museum is quite a respected employer in the community. It's known for its supportive and inclusive environment and opportunities for professional development. Employees and volunteers praise it as a positive workplace. And one of the key contributors to the museum is its members. Their membership program not only brings in revenue, but it brings together a community of dedicated people passionate about preserving and promoting local history.
Maidstone Museum has put a lot of effort and thought into accessibility issues. Wheelchair access is catered for throughout, and we loved the touch of the sign language tutorials on the signage. And the smell-o-vision was a fun interactive touch for everybody.
But you should know that the 80s exhibit does have a sensory warning due to the flashing lights. Toilets were gender divisive. The UK as a country scores 71 out of 100 on the Equidex ranking. So a little bit of work still to do there. I've popped a link in the description so you can check out that info for yourself.
Well, the staff and the volunteers at the very entrance and welcoming were wonderful. Very friendly, very informative. We felt at home roaming around and really enjoyed the different exhibits, many of which were interactive and hands-on.
Daryl tested out the gear of a Roman soldier, while I tried to piece together an archaeological find.
So with free entry to see so much variety, and a very low cost on these exhibits, we can definitely say that it was value for money.
The museum housed much more than we expected, and we actually didn't get time to visit it all because we spent so long in the 80's exhibit. So we're going to have to go back and go upstairs to see the natural display.
And on sustainability, Maidstone is reachable via public transport. About an hour away from London, the best station is Maidstone East, which takes you for a little quick walk to the museum, or in fact in the centre of Maidstone. So the City Council is dedicated to sustainability issues with wildlife corridors, an electric vehicle programme, conservation programmes. The borough has committed to becoming carbon neutral by 2030, a strategy that includes decarbonising and insulating homes and buildings, generating renewable energy and increasing biodiversity.
So overall, whether you're a history buff, an art enthusiast, or just looking for a family-friendly activity, Maidstone Museum has something to offer.
And Maidstone itself has so much to see and do. So once we'd left our childhood behind in the 80's, we wandered around the town only to be met by icons of modern childhood.
The town was overrun by Shaun the sheep.
The town was overrun by Shaun the sheep.
Yes, 109 Shauns led us on a trail around Maidstone in a fabulous blend of charity and creativity, helping support the Heart of Kent Hospice. Subscribe now and hit the notifications bell for our review on Shaun the sheep in the Heart of Kent.
In the meantime, happy travels everyone!